This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
这是我。
This is me.
This is me.
And this is us.
But
All right.
no, but you guys, welcome back to another episode of This Is Us for the month of October for Meet the Blind Month. And so I had to get a good friend of mine on here, Michael Clark, everybody. So Mike, say hey to everybody.
Hello, people on Facebook and whatever platforms you may be on.
So I met Michael in a couple of other Facebook groups, and we've seen the grow pretty close, but I was always very intrigued with all the stuff that he seems to bring to the table for the blind community. So hopefully we'll be able to touch on some of that stuff today. But as always, to go ahead and get some of the formalities out of the way, Michael, let us know your name, your age, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Great. My name is Michael Clark. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area. I pretty much stay hidden on all social media. Well, until now. But
yeah, I had to call in one of my favorites to get him to come out of hiding.
yeah.
So, okay, so how about telling us your eye condition, and exactly how long you've been dealing with it?
Well, I have retinopathy of prematurity as the main eye condition, and of course, that's the same eye condition Stevie Wonder has. So since birth, or slightly after birth.
Okay, and then if you could just,
Um,
okay, go ahead.
Several others. I mean, I've had cataract surgery within the past year to remove grade 4 cataracts and an oil drop cataract, which is pretty rare.
Oh, wow.
Nystagmus, where my eyes move in a pendulum motion back and forth. A precursor to glaucoma called what is it? What the hell is that thing called? I want to say it's called myopia.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's about it, really.
You
Yeah,
had a lot of different eye conditions, huh?
yeah.
So, like, if you,
I've been treated at the Wilmer Eye Institute, and he said it was pretty hard for him to do the surgery. I just went to go see the surgeon again yesterday. He said it was pretty hard. It's one of the hardest surgeries he had to perform.
oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, the bit of vision that you do have left, if you can describe it, how would you describe it?
I have I want to say 90-degree field of vision in my left eye, which is the better of two eyes, and about half that in my right eye.
Okay.
And my right eye is a lot worse.
Gotcha.
And as far as visual acuity goes, my visual acuity is probably about, somewhere between 2200 and 2500, give or take, on lighting conditions and different things that affect,
Right.
ROP.
Gotcha. Okay. So, for those who are actually totally blind, like myself, could you give us like a physical description of yourself?
Physical description: I am 5'8", Native American and black.
Okay.
Kind of right now during COVID, a little bit on the chubbier side.
Okay.
I've been trying to work that out. I've
Yeah.
been doing martial arts my whole life.
Yeah.
I need to pick back up into that meeting because I've stopped during COVID. So yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah. So other than that, pretty much your average dude.
Okay. So, I guess to go ahead and get down to the crux of the actual interview. So, one of the things that I always found to be so, that I admired in you was just the fact of like all the different things that you kind of had your hand in, the different pots, if you will. And I'll never forget when I first met you, you were telling me exactly how you were connected to different embassies, different foreign embassies. So I guess the first thing would be to go ahead and tell us exactly which embassies you're connected to and exactly how those came about.
Okay, so I'm connected to several embassies. I have immigrants in my family who are diplomats, who are like distant cousins. So I think it's kind of ironic that, you know, I am connected to those embassies. The first was the Kenyan embassy. I was introduced to that through a Kenyan nonprofit group called Enable
Okay.
through Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind. So there I gave a speech on web accessibility and how the lack of assistive technology affects blind people and people with disabilities both here and abroad.
Okay.
And that was back in 2017. I used that as a launching platform to connect me to other embassies, like the Filipino embassy or the embassy of the Philippines to the U.S. And with that embassy, I am working on. I'm sorry, the echo kind of reminds me of being on radio. With that embassy, with that embassy, I'm working on, you know, I'm getting back to the part where I said, the echo. With that embassy, I'm working on, let's say, helping the Filipino government and the Filipino DCM, who has now been promoted to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Filipino government, rewrite the Magna Carta for disabled persons. They have no Section 508 laws or laws similar to Section 508 in the Philippines. So, which is a serious disparity for people with disabilities.
Right.
That includes like web accessibility to education, textbooks, those sort of things, where here in America we're protected from. Like, hey, if your school doesn't have accessible textbooks, you can sue, or we're required by law to make those things accessible. They don't have that. They only have the guiding principles of the Magna Carta for disabled persons, saying that, hey, at some point in time we have to provide these things, but unless you make it a necessity or you advocate for yourself, a lot of people don't have those.
Right.
Don't have the ability to advocate for themselves necessarily, and they don't have the ability to actually reach out, because the infrastructure that we have here, the Philippines is a third world country. They don't have that infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been amazing to me to sit down and
even in Kenya and other places.
Oh, okay, got you.
Like, here we're pretty much blessed. We have technology. We have smartphones that can talk to us. They're using picture like the old LG flip phones. They're still using those. You know what I mean? It's a difference between night and day.
Right.
People don't necessarily understand that. It's a difference between night and day. So imagine if you're in that country and being set back 20 years in accessibility.
Right. Yeah.
Or in advocacy work, any type of advocacy work for disabled. People are still, given apartments and rooms to just sit in by yourself.
Wow.
Being a shut-in. I mean, that happens here too, but
right.
At least here, for the most part, it's by choice. For some people,
but
they don't even have the choice to get education.
But the funny thing is, Mike, is that I actually ended up, I don't know if you guys may have heard of him. He's starting up his own thing. I believe he's from Zimbabwe. Robert Malunda. I don't know if you've ever heard of his name before. I think he started something called Gateway to Elation. And so it was kind of like this program where he was saying that a lot of times that when it comes to the blind community, at least over in Africa, that one of the things that they really don't focus on is like the social aspect of it, like promoting social
Absolutely.
interaction. Right. And so when I tell you, I love sitting down talking with him, because one of the things that he really kind of like drove home was, he was like, the way that you guys in America view disability and the things that are available to you, it's not like that over here with us. And he was like, for them,
Absolutely.
yeah, like for them to have to like for 5 of them to have to share the same computer, or like social media to not really be available
Yeah.
to them, or like just
Yeah.
the like having mobility instructors, or those types of things. Like, it really brings things back to perspective for you, of how really privileged a lot of us are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me growing up, I had a one-on-one mobility instructor. I didn't have to share my mobility instructor with more than one student at the same school
Right,
during the same time period.
right,
With them, yeah, they have a whole group.
exactly, exactly. And then, like you said, and even with that, they don't always have the like, where, like with me, like when I was going through my courses, it was like, once a week. Hello? Oh, but like with me, it was like, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike?
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
okay. Because yeah, like in places like Zimbabwe and other African nations, they have schools for the blind, but their schools, and I'm thinking of, I'm also in contact with, oh, let's say, I forgot her name. Oh man, what a great time to forget her name, huh? Oh, it'll come back to me in a second. Um, um, but yeah, in her country, um, she's in Tanzania. Um, the Minister of Education in Tanzania, she's albino, and she's also has a disability, and in her country they have students, places, schools for the blind and everything,
Mhm.
but um, they have to fight big time for just equal rights and everything. Not only because they're albino. I mean, I'm not sure if you know the situation, but witch doctors and everything hunt people who are albino
What?
for their bones and everything. Oh yeah, yeah. It's pretty. It's gruesome. It's scary, but yeah.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. Being albino, it's a genetic disorder, but because you know having an albino creature or albino animal is still revered, they hunt people with albinism and chop them up and stuff,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
been all over the news. And so she has been an advocate, a major advocate for not only accessibility but equal rights for people with
Albino,
albinism
right.
over there. Yeah, and I am in contact with her, and she has 2 albino daughters that she also has adopted. It's getting better, but it just
Got a long way to go.
shows you how, yeah, and it shows you what we consider here is, we're still struggling here as well, but the gap.
Right.
It shows you the gap between how people with disabilities are being treated worldwide.
Wow, man. I did not know that about
Yeah,
albinism.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta get my my mind back right.
It's yeah, you got to get your mind in the right position,
Yeah.
kind of the thing to focus on with that is it is getting better. It is getting better. Um, despite the world's turmoils, it's getting better.
Right. Well, let me ask. Well,
Yeah, it's getting
let me
better.
ask you this. I know you started to talk a little bit about the things that you've done so far, working with the different embassies, in particular the Filipino embassy. What's one of the things that you look, or I guess that you're trying to implement going forward with you? Like, what role will you be playing with that going forward?
Um, Now that I'm not entirely sure. We're still fleshing everything out. I'm working with the State Department and the Minister of Foreign Affairs with the Filipino embassy to try to figure out exactly where I fit in. Right now, I'm working with them as a consultant.
Hmm.
So not only have I performed audits on their websites, but some of the documentation and everything as far as immigration goes. Um, other than that, I think I'm going to be in some sort of training capacity to train those in the Philippines who have disabilities, not just blindness, but disabilities in general,
Hmm.
to be able to develop, maintain, and deploy a lot of those websites, which will be, you know, compliant to whatever law they create that's equivalent to what we have here is Section 508
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
including educational materials.
Right. Right. Right.
Hmm.
Okay. So moving on from the pure D shock, um, I, I also know that one of your other hats or pots that you had your hand in is that you actually used to work for the VA for Veteran Affairs.
Hmm.
So what capacity did you work with them in?
Pretty much the same capacity. I was an auditor. They're auditing their documents. I did websites, everything including vets.gov. Let's see, my telehealth management, different projects that then didn't have an impact on Americans, but now during COVID, things like my telehealth management has become the norm. You know, it's normal for people to have, you know, telehealth visits with their doctors over an iPhone per se,
Right. Right.
or you know, a web app, and I've helped to make those things, bring those things into fruition, and make those things more of a reality for everyday people. And you know, back then, you know, I didn't think that it would be as relevant as it is now, as it, because now it's a necessity. Then it was a commodity. Then it was a, you know, wasn't necessarily a commodity, but then it was a privilege. Now it's a necessity. So
Right, right, right.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
and it's actually funny that you bring that up. Like, okay, so I always wanted to like pick your brain when it comes to this. So knowing where we've come as far as accessibility, for the blind and other disabilities, when it comes to technology up till now, what's one of the things that you could personally see taking place technology-wise in the future for the disabled? Interesting question, huh? You like that, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Off the
like
top of
that one.
my
Yeah,
head, yeah.
you whack me over the top of the head with that one. Um, well, with the development of like AI and things like that, we're already seeing that future being developed. We're already seeing that future come into fruition. You have to think just a couple of years ago, things like object recognition wasn't even a thing on your phone. Now you have it on. You know, your phone is your number one computer. You have it with you everywhere you
Yeah.
go. You can have it read street signs to you. You can have it pick out whether or not what type of bird is chirping next to
Yeah.
you. If you want to get into bird watching and you're a blind person, you can have it pick out not only like but whatever song somebody's listening to in an Uber car.
Hmm.
So AI, that part of technology, I think is going to get a lot more robust and a lot stronger. It's moving there now. Um, yeah. So I think that, you know,
Right.
yeah,
See, and like,
yeah. If you get where I'm coming from,
oh yeah, definitely.
that part of it, yeah, that part of it is definitely going to grow. It's definitely going to be more intuitive. It's going to alleviate some of the hassle that we have as, you know, individuals with
Citizens,
disabilities.
right?
Yeah, it'll definitely improve our lives a lot
More
more.
right. And see, and so my thing,
Hmm.
and again, they may have something like this. So again, if you guys who are watching know, please let me know. But one of the things that I've always wondered was like, okay, so I rarely ever use maps or like whatever GPS function it is that comes like with your phone. Um, if I were to live in like a major metropolitan area, one of the things that I've always said that I've wanted is like, obviously you can get like the street directions, you walk down 2 blocks and then the third house on the left. You see what I'm saying? I've always wanted something that was like, you walk 3 feet and then when you get to the third foot, it tells you make a left. and then you walk up 3 set of stairs and then turn right, and then like literally step by step instruction to literally to where I get to the door of the place where I'm trying to go to. And even
Yeah.
like for it to be so advanced that it like even take like again GPS, satellites tracking us, even to where it's like it's so detailed that it can tell me if I'm gonna have to walk in through a gate, or that
Welcome to Skynet, huh?
exactly. Or like if there is a sewer grate that's on the road that I'm getting ready to have to cross over. Like to me, I mean, I don't know if it'll ever be that detailed, but to me, something like that, 'cause that's a big reason. I mean, I live in. I don't know if I would call this a city. I guess it is one of the cities of Georgia, but I live in the city of Georgia, but like for me, I think of like New York, like where if I were want to go from like my friend's house to another friend's house and to not have to worry about, it's the third house on the left and having to figure out where the third house on the left is.
Yeah, yeah. Or turn right here,
Right.
And I've seen blindness technology get better as far as, GPS goes.
Right.
But it's always it's not like, take the APH thing. What did they create? It's called Around Me, or that was another one that was similar to it.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Maybe somebody in the comments will probably chime in. Like, it's either Around Me or something like that. But yeah, you want something that's kind of sort of like Waze. You know how Waze predicts,
Right.
like it tells you there's a obstruction in the roadway, something like that for,
Right.
disabled persons.
Right.
And yeah, I think that there are too many smaller companies not working with the bigger companies to develop that technology further. Yeah, I mean, I think that could be developed further. Waze already exists. Why not, hey, just like having something like Seeing AI or whatever, or Era, where people have to report, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, if you're this way, that way, if you're shopping, there's the peanut butter you're looking for down there on the third shelf.
Right.
People are already using those similar technologies, but it's on such a small scale. They need to upscale it and then tie that in with people that create the maps and everything to say, hey, there's an obstruction in front of you.
Right.
At least in 3 feet. If it can't do it in 1 feet or tell you that it's right there, it should be able to tell you that, hey, there's a trash can right there in 3 feet, because GPS isn't necessarily that accurate where it can tell you, exactly, pinpoint exactly where you are. And even if it was, I don't know if I want the radiation aimed directly at my head,
And again, you brought up the perfect example when you brought up Waze, because again, like I've used Waze before too, and like you said, sometimes conditions change, or maybe like
conditions change.
or like maybe there, like you said, there's an obstruction, or maybe it's a person, or maybe whatever. So for it to be in real time to let you know, because again, maybe every other day there doesn't happen to be, a tree fell across the sidewalk, but this day it happens too.
Exactly.
Exactly. I really feel like as far as independence goes,
And here's the thing. Google has that technology. It's a technology that they've implemented in 2 video games so far, Pokemon Go and what's the other one? Pokemon Go and Ingress, where it allows people to update information when it comes to landmarks and different things like that for geotagging and those sort of things. Why not just open that technology up to a different scale and let people report, hey, this is where I saw it. Just like dropping a pinpoint on the map. This is where I saw that obstruction. It's something that already exists, but people don't think to use it in that manner. And that's where technology is going, honestly. It's people, it's just like How to Catch a Rat. It's, using different methods. Yeah, using different methods to,
Right. So, since we're on the topic of technology, before I get ready to close this out with you, if you had to suggest 3 apps for somebody who is blind and trying to navigate better, what would be your top 3 apps that you would suggest for somebody?
Ooh.
That's another one of them
As
questions.
far as navigation goes, yeah, yeah, I would. I don't know. I would say, do your research. Number one, there are communities out there who use those apps. Era is okay, but it's a subscription based thing. I don't knock Era for that.
Okay.
But you know, um, I don't know. I'll see. I mean, I'm connected with other technology companies.
Okay.
Project Ray. I know Project Ray was being laughed at a couple of years ago for coming out with those things, but I'm heavily in contact with Boaz from Israel. He's the CEO of that company. He created Fring a long time ago. You know, um, he's a good friend of mine,
Okay.
and we are in talks of maybe coming out with something, partnering with APH, maybe to develop something in the future that may be, you know, more accessible than whatever that thing that APH has. That, you know, I mean, it's good, but it could be improved upon. I like American Printing House. It could be improved upon. Um,
Hmm. Oh.
and just maybe, yeah, purchasing up some of these smaller companies to make a bigger one. Not to create like the freedom science fiction of, navigation, but,
Right.
just to consolidate technology. Like think about it. If Apple and VFO got together, to make, give people more choices, like of a screener to like make voice over Windows or whatever, something like
Right.
that.
Right.
We need options. We need more competition. We need low cost options in the blindness community. Not just the Jawses and the expensive things, because a lot of us are on fixed income, me myself included, after being unemployed due to COVID. So yeah.
Hmm. Okay. And so before I get ready to close this out with you, and I ask the one question that I always ask everybody at the end of the interview, I did say something that I wanted to incorporate with the series for Meet the Blind Month was if you can give advice to anybody dealing with blindness going forward, if they're new to it, if they're a veteran in this game, what advice would you give to somebody?
Definitely reach out. There are support networks out there. There are, there are resources that you can use
Mm-hmm.
if you're newly blind. There are mental health resources. There are advocacy groups. There are, even sports. Reach out. Reach out to people. If you don't know, anything, reach out to somebody else who's blind. They'll be able to help you out.
Okay.
The blindness community is pretty small. Everybody seems to know each other in some way or fashion,
Right.
past, present, or future.
Exactly.
So definitely reach out. I mean, and if you can't reach out, um, things like Department of Human Resources that we have here in the United States, they have it. It's similar pretty much anywhere in the world. That sort of thing. Reach out to other people who can reach out.
Okay. So my last question, as I always do at the end of all interviews, if you could ask me one thing, what would you ask me?
Where do you see yourself in the next year with this show? Where do you see it going? How do you see it taking off? What's your goal
And so when I
overall?
so when I started this show, it actually started in one of the Facebook groups. I actually started it because I felt like it was so many people in there who didn't even know each other. So I was like, how in the world are we in this Facebook group and don't nobody who even know who we talking to or anything like that? And so I always thought it was interesting to just bring people on here and just tell their stories and to listen to the stories and be like, wow, this person did what? Or wow, this person is involved in what? To me, I feel like in so many ways that's inspiring. Like I told about how like I admired you for what you were kind of able to kind of have your hand in the different pots and stuff like that. And that made me say, okay, well, shoot, anything is possible.
Here's a further drop of knowledge for you. No college education. I'm an autodidact. So
Okay.
there you go.
Wow.
So for those people who feel like, hey, they can't do anything, I grew up, in the middle of Liberty Heights and Garrison. If you ever seen the show The Wire, that's where it was filmed, in Baltimore. That's where I grew up.
Wow.
So, hey, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Seriously.
That's true,
Seriously.
yeah. So, personally, where would I like to see this show? Continuing doing the same thing, inspiring people like you've done, and like a lot of the other people who I've interviewed, and hopefully getting some more people's stories out there. I think that's the biggest thing. That's just always what I've always wanted. So, yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you on here today, sir.
Yeah. It's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure. I'm still getting used to the audio catching up, but yeah.
And so, look, I am glad that you came out of hiding to be on my show. So,
that's how it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Or as my friend Lou would say, it bees like that.
Yeah.
Lou would say it bees like that. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was about to say, yeah, he's an older blind gentleman who I had the opportunity of training here in the DC area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
76 years old,
wow.
man, and still going strong.
All right,
You'd be surprised at how many people lose their vision later on in age and later on in life and can still,
look,
still with it. They still got their mind.